Hi all, welcome to yet another session on Means Answer Writing Initiative. And as you guys know, that our topic for today was Geography from GS1. I'll be reiterating that please the right answer for the time you have left with you before you start prelims preparation and get your answers evaluated on CollectorBabu. So the questions which I have taken today are PYQs, and two of them were PYQ from Mains 2024. And let us not waste a lot of our time and try to analyze how we will be answering these questions. Okay? Traditionally speaking, these questions would be seen as bouncers because unless you have geography optional, you won't be able to write such answer with precision. But initiative does not only tell you how to write answer under pressure, but also will help you gain some of the new content. So take this answer writing initiative as a learning opportunity. Here is the question. What is a twister? Why are the majority of twisters observed in areas around the Gulf of Mexico? Traditionally speaking, you might not even be knowing what twisters are and why they are observed along the Gulf of Mexico, etc. So, what you can do is just completely leave this question, and that might be the same way to go, and so that you can save some of your time and write better answer in the question you know. But having said that, try to learn a thing or two in this question. So let us define twister. Twister is generally a tornado, which is a violently rotating column of air that extends from a thunderstorm to the ground. It is generally associated with low pressure, strong wind, and extreme weather condition. Tornadoes are among the most destructive natural phenomena capable of causing massive destruction in a short span. Then you'll be writing about where they're traditionally observed. They are primarily observed in an area colloquially known as the Tornado Alley in the United States. Why? Because such area are prone to twisters and tornado, and these areas are Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and some of the surrounding areas. Now, the question primarily asks you what are the reasons why majority of the twisters are observed around the Gulf of Mexico. One thing you'll have to do is make a map of USA and South America region, basically North and South America region, mark the Gulf of Mexico there and shade it and write clearly that this is the region where maximum tornadoes are observed. Well, this might not fetch you any extra marks because this is explicitly given in question, but do it because it will help in some value addition. And in geography, you have to make a lot of diagrams. So don't shy away from making diagrams. So what are the reasons? The first reason is the clash of air masses, because there's this warm moist air from the Gulf of Mexico region and there's this cold dry air from the Canada and the Rocky Mountain region. So when those two different air masses they mix, there's this collision of contrasting air masses leading to the formation of thunderstorms, which then generate tornadoes. This is one reason. Then the other is that along those regions, there's this presence of strong westerly jet stream over the central USA, which provide the necessary wind shear, which helps in formation of rotating supercell thunderstorms, which are precursor to tornadoes. So two reasons you understood. First is the different contrasting air mass, and second is the presence of jet stream. What is the third reason? Third reason is there is this completely flat topography along the Great Plains and the Mississippi Valley where majority of tornadoes are observed. So what is the use of such flat topography? in aiding tornadoes and twisters. They provide an unobstructed pathway for the movement and intensification of such storm system. You get it? So these three factors are the reasons. Now we can talk about some other contingent factors like spring and summer seasonality. During spring and early summer, the land heats up quickly, intensifying the temperature contrast. Okay. Then you will talk about that there are frequent pressure system developing along those region, which help generate thunderstorm, which creates favorable condition for tornadoes to develop. So these were some of the reasons that I talked about. And you can just conclude by saying that you can link it to the wider aspect of climate change. You can lead it to the link it to the wider aspect of sea surface temperature increasing. Okay, you talk about how primarily due to the interaction of warm and cold mass, all these factors result in formation of twister. Linking it with climate change would be one aspect. The other would be linking it with the disaster management and preparedness aspect. Both or either of two you can use while concluding your answer. But again, this was a very not so traditional type of question. And obviously, you can expect such bouncer questions next year, but not the same. Nothing goes wrong in learning some new information. Take this as a learning opportunity. So, there's the second question, which is what are aurora Australia and aurora borealis? Okay, Australis and aurora borealis. How are these triggered? Again, you obviously do have some vague idea about what the two different auroras are, but again, you might not exactly know how are these triggered, and you might not be able to write very good, balanced, and informative answer in such question. But again, take this as a learning opportunity and learn some information. So you will be defining what auroras are. Basically, auroras are natural light displays in the Earth's polar region caused by interaction of solar particles with Earth's magnetic field. Very simple, this everybody knows. Then they can be classified as aurora borealis, the northern light, and aurora australis, the southern light. Again, this also everybody knows. Now comes the part of actually explaining how aurora is triggered and why are the different colors in the aurora, why are the different patterns. This is something for which you need to know some in-depth understanding. But again, basically one point you can definitely write about the interaction of solar wind and Earth's magnetosphere. This is a very preliminary understanding and mostly everybody can write this point. So how are they triggered? First point would be the emission of solar wind. The sun continuously emits charged particles. During solar storms and coronal mass ejection, large amounts of these particles are released. So then these particles would then interact with the Earth magnetic field towards the pole by the magnetosphere. Then you can also talk about the charged particles in the Van Allen radiation belt, because again this radiation belt has been in news for quite some time. So in your prelims preparation, you might have studied about Van Allen radiation belt. The Earth's magnetic field traps these charged particles in the Van Allen radiation belt. Then you'll talk about that there's this excitation of atmospheric gases, oxygen and nitrogen, which emits colorful light, which is then known as aurora. So it is dependent on altitude and basically the color is produced at which altitude. For example, green, which is the most common color of aurora, is produced at lower altitudes like around the regions of 100 kilometer. Then oxygen at higher altitude, they interact with the charged particle and they produce red color. So green at lower altitude, red at higher altitude, and then purple or blue is formed due to nitrogen molecules, which then interacts at various different energy level. So this is something which will be beneficial for your pre-exam as well. But be that as it may, now you can give some examples of aurora where they're traditionally observed. Like aurora borealis, you can just see in Norway, Sweden, Finland, Russia, Canada, Alaska. Aurora australis, you can see in Antarctica, part of Australia, New Zealand, etc. Then you will just conclude by saying that these aren't just mesmerizing phenomena, but they also give an insight into solar activity and Earth's magnetic field. And they'll provide insight into space weather phenomena and better understanding of universe as a whole. So these were two difficult questions, bouncer question. Let's move on to fairly easier question. Again, this is a PYQ and we can answer it in a very simple framework because the question is describing the distribution of rubber producing countries indicate the major environmental issue. Okay. So you're not going to talk about the economic issue, how there's this duped synthetic rubber being produced, etc. You have to talk majorly and most importantly about the environmental issue from deforestation, okay, to loss of land of indigenous population there, okay, who have the traditional knowledge about conserving the forest, etc. And then you'll talk about instead of planting, replantation of rubber tree or the native species, there's this plantation agriculture taking place, which is again harmful for the environment, leading to soil erosion and disturbing of the microbiome of the area. So you'll just give a small insight into rubber production or maybe the rubber crop. You can talk about some rubber crop, the temperature at which it grows, the region where it grows. Then you have to make a map, world map compulsorily in this question. Make a world map, mark the areas where rubber producing area is, like Southeast Asia, obviously, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and even in India, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, even Assam and Tripura, these are the rubber producing area. Then we'll talk about some rubber is also produced along Africa, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Liberia, and then you'll talk about Latin America because Brazil becomes very important, Guatemala, Mexico. So in the world map, you are supposed to mark these regions, okay? Without this, you are not going to get any marks because it clearly says that you have to explain the distribution. Then, what are the major environmental issues? We have talked about it, deforestation and habitat loss, okay? Then soil degradation and erosion, which again we talked about. Water pollution, because the use of pesticide and processing chemicals have contaminated the nearby sources of groundwater and river as well. Example, in Vietnam and India, rubber latex processing plants contribute to water pollution. Then you talk about carbon emission and climate change. How clearing forest for rubber plantation has released carbon dioxide, because earlier these rainforests are carbon sink, but once you engage in deforestation, the sink becomes the source, so it releases carbon dioxide. So you can give example like deforestation in Indonesia, etc. Then you'll talk about human wildlife conflict, expansion of rubber plantation into protected areas, force wildlife like elephant, tiger, etc. to enter into human settlement. Then here example would be Kerala, Assam, etc. Then you can talk about labor and socio-economic issue, but again, this is all just contingent factor. It's not the major important factor. So, rubber production is concentrated in tropical regions of Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, but its expansion has led to several environmental issues such as deforestation, soil degradation, etc., etc., etc. So, this concludes our answer writing session. And hopefully, you guys have learned something. And also, try to learn something while you're writing answer, and after you have written your answer, get it evaluated, because that will give you a true picture of where you stand. You have to be prepared with some content and some practice of answer writing before you just write your prelims, because in case you clear prelims, you won't get that much time to prepare for mains. And this is the time. Please make the best use of it. Bye bye. Take care. See you